Gender and disability. Simply put, disability is a state or condition of mind or body that affects an individual's functioning and interferes with their ability to participate in the activities of day to day life. As we have mentioned about disability is not just an individual medical problem but as a social one. For instance, a person may have lost her ability to see, that is their impairment, but became the environment around her makes it difficult and dangerous for blind people to function. She becomes disabled and thus her quality of life suffer. Thus there is both of a medical as well as social dimension of the issue disability. Disabled persons represent the largest minority group in society after women. Disability can affect a person anytime in the lifespan as healthcare improves and persons live longer. The chances of developing an age related disability increases as one grows older. Furthermore, accident and injuries are a major source of injury and disability. It is rightly said that we are all temporarily abled body. Thus, disability is not a unique experience of particular individuals labeled as disabled, but of each one of us at some point in our lives. Disabled persons differ from one another in terms of the type and degree of disability. Moreover, gender, class, caste, race, ethnicity, sexuality, residence, and other such uh, social, economic, political, and cultural factors determine how disability is experienced and understood. For instance, in rural agriculture community, the loss of a limb may be seen as a severe disability because it affects the ability to work in the fields and earn a living. A person with the intellectual disability who can do farm work may not be considered disabled at all, but may be teased for being a simpleton. But in an urban society, having an intellectual disability or mental retardation, as it is still known in India, may be more of a problem because so much importance is given to academic performance and getting into a profession. But what is a disability and what does it mean to be disabled in the first place? Disabilities may be present from words congenital. For instance, development disabilities like the mental retardation and autism are believed to be congenital. Malnutrition and micronutrient deficiency may result in disabling conditions in children in the form of stunted physical and mental growth. Certain kinds of disabilities are acquired later in life due to accidents, injuries, or advancing age, as mentioned above. A disability may be static, such as the loss of limb due to an amputation, or progressive, in which a person's condition may deteriorate with time. The commonly known disabilities include blindness, deafness, locomotor disability, mental retardation, cerebral palsy, and the mental illness. Recent autism and learning disabilities like dyslexia have also become more familiar. In legal documents and policy statement, disability is defined in terms of what qualities for public assistance. In India, the Rights of Persons with Disabilities Act 2016 identifies 21 disabilities as compared to the earlier Persons with the Disabilities Act 1995, which identified only 7 categories. Persons with disabilities are the most neglected and disempowered section of the population. Due to their marginalized status, they are denied the fundamental civil, political, social, and economic rights that are guaranteed to all the citizens in the democracy. The plight of women with disabilities is even more worse since they have to face the double oppression of gender and disability. Indeed, not only are they a socially invisible category, but their plight is worse than both men with the disabilities and other non disabled women. A disabled girl child is considered as a curse upon the family and often ill treated and abused. According to the census of India, 26.8 million persons have some form of a disability in India, accounting for 2.11% of the total population. Of these, 15 million are men and 11.8 are women. Thus, women constitute just about 44 of the persons with disabilities in India. This was believed to be a conservative figure as the census took into account only a limited number of disabilities using a wider definition of disability, which includes conditions like diabetes and cardiovascular disease. WHO estimates that 6 to 10 of the person population now suffer from the identifiable physical or mental disability that comes to over 70 million person in India. It should be noted that estimates the total number of persons with disabilities in a country vary depending on the definition of disability used. Degree of impairment survey methodology including use of scientific instrument for identification and measurement of disabling condition, wars and conflict, HIV, AIDS and industrial injuries and road accidents are increasing the number of disabled persons. As mentioned earlier, enhanced life expectancy has increased and manifold the incidence of old age related chronic disease, including disabilities worldwide as well. Social attitudes and stereotypes. Historically, persons with disabilities have always been regarded with a mixture of fear, horror, and disdain, almost as if they were subhuman. They have been portrayed as freaks, helpless victims, and a lifelong burden for family and society. Even in religion and the mythology, negative traits have been attributed with form of deformity. Be it Manthara, the hunchback in the Ramayana, or Shakuni, the lame of the Mahabharata. Indeed, the law of karma decreed that being disabled was a punishment for past indeed. Such constructions of the disabled by the non-disabled leads to the marginalization and disempowerment of a whole population group. At the same time, such negative stereotypes are internalized by the disabled people themselves. This leads to passivity and dependency, isolation, low self esteem, and a complete loss of initiative. Pity, segregation, discrimination, and stigmatization become normalized in the management of persons with disabilities. In India, the dominant attitude policies which are based upon charity and welfare, medical rehabilitation, including distribution of assertive aids and appliances such as braces, crutches, hearing aid, etc., special schools, vocational training in law and occupation, and sheltered employment have been the pillars of state policy for the disabled right from the colonial period. Furthermore, they have never been regarded as a politically significant movement, hence their issues and the concerns have not been taken up seriously by the political classes. Many of them are the hidden away from the public view and denied access to education and social experiences. They have not been able to come together in a big way and make their presence felt in public life. Things began to change marginally after 1981. A national era of disabled persons. When the issue of disability was opened up at the national level, the changing international climate focusing on human rights and empowerment of the marginal groups impelled the government to make some policy changes such as the reservations in education, institution, and employment, but real progress in the form of concrete legislation to deliver the promise of equality of opportunity and social justice only came in 1995 with the passage of Persons with Disabilities. Other legislation soon followed. One of the historic international policy documents in recent time was the UN Convention for the Rights of the Person with Disability, which was also signed by India in 2007. This signaled the introduction of a view of disability as a human right and development issue rather than simply a matter of charity and welfare. The Right of Persons with Disabilities Act, which has now replaced the 1995 Act, is in line with this view. Several disability rights groups and NGOs have emerged in recent times, and disability related issues are being increasingly included in the curriculum of the educational institutions. Disability and gender. The plight of women with disabilities, as early mentioned, is far worse than that of men, as they suffer on account of being a woman in a male dominated society and disabled in a world which consider the healthy able body as an ideal. How a person with disability experience the condition and is perceived by others is largely dependent on whether she is male or female. For instance, Michelle Fine and the Adrian Ash pointed out that the women with disability experience sexism without the pedestal. That is, they are doubly disadvantaged. Not only do they experience disability linked discrimination, but they experience sexism and are denied the consideration and social status that non-disabled women may claim as wives and mothers. Men with disabilities also experience a similar assault on their masculinity and may be shamed or bullied as not being men enough or dependent and burdens upon the family. This can be very bruising and damaging to the self-respect as traditionally men are expected to be providers and decision makers of the family. A 2011 census estimates that there are over 11 million women with disabilities in India, constituting about 4% of the population. Some researchers estimate that there are over 35 women with disabilities in India. Others put the figure at 20. 98 of persons are disabled are illiterate. Less than 1% can avail healthcare and rehabilitation services, but these statistics are only a tip of the iceberg. When it comes to gauging the level of neglect, isolation, stigma, and deprivation that characterize their lives, the majority of women with disabilities in India suffer the triple discrimination of being female, being disabled, being poor, marriage, and family life. A disabled woman is considered incapable of in fulfilling the normative feminine roles of home worker. Then she also does not fit the stereotype of the normal woman in terms of physical appearance. Since women embody family honor, disabled girls are kept hidden at home by families and denied basic rights of mobility, education, and employment. They are less likely to be given in marriage than disabled men. The capacity of women with disabilities to be sexual partners, homemakers, and mothers is questioned and doubted. They are not considered capable of performing household chores efficiently, having meaningful sexual relationships, or producing and rearing healthy children. Under these circumstances, they may be married off to older, already married, or men in the poor health. In short, women with disabilities do not have the same options of the marriage and motherhood as non disabled women. Being nurturing and caring are important aspects of female identity and cultural expectation of the proper womanhood, but women with disabilities are themselves in need of care. Thus, they are not regarded as complete women. Being powerless, isolated, and anonymous, women with disabilities are extremely vulnerable to abuse and violence. In addition, help in activities of daily living like dressing, eating, and other bodily activities makes them more vulnerable to abuse both at home and in institution. She will be less able to defend herself in a risky situation because she may not be able to run or shout for help than person with developmental disabilities may be too trusting of others and hence may be easier to trick, bribe, or coerce. They may not understand differences between good touch and bad touch. Many cases are known for mentally or intellectually disabled girls and women who are sexually abused by people responsible for their safety and care because they show that the victim will not be able to report what has happened to her. And the abuser can escape scot free. Person with speech and hearing difficulties may have limited communication skills to report abuse. Furthermore, since disabled persons are often taught to be obedient, passive, and to control their behavior, this may take them easy victims. Women in general in our country find it difficult to move freely from one place to another for work or leisure. So we can well imagine the condition of women with disability. Poor public transport, bad roads or no roads, lack of proper lighting and safety on the streets at all make it very difficult for women with disabilities to move from one to another without assistance or help. Lack of proper toilet facilities is a major problem. Public toilets are filthy and unhygienic and usually at ground level, making it very difficult for the locomotor disabled women who often get around by crawling on all fours. Many women with disabilities have narrated their experience of not eating food or even drinking water for long periods while they are out of the house for fear that they maybe need to use the toilet. They has a bad effect on their health due to these difficulties in moving from place to place. Families often try to keep their disabled daughters confined in the four walls of the home. Many such girls never get the opportunity to interact. Many disabled girls never go to school. There's a lot of social stigma attached to their conditions and the families. Social school or vocational centers that are equipped to deal with their needs are usually only found in the urban centers, and traveling daily to use only in the urban center, and these center become a burden on the family. Lack of hostel facilities and proper care if such hostel exist further worsen the problem. Many families consider their disabled daughters to be unfit for education and are unwillingly to invest any money for the purpose because the girls are already considered a burden. Needless to say, women with disabilities also find it very hard to secure employment because of their lack of education and training. This poses a serious problem for the future, especially after their parents die, leaving them without the financial support or independence. Girls and women with disabilities may suffer from several health problems which may be related to disability and require prolonged and costly medical care. Assistive devices like hearing aids for the deaf, wheelchairs, or the artificial limbs for those with locomotor may prove prohibitively expensive for poor families. Women find it very humiliating when they go for health checkups because health professionals often treat them in insensitive and the careless way. Many women neglect their health because they do not want to burden their families more and consider themselves worthless. Health is directly related to nutrition and a good quality of life. Many women with disability also suffering from poverty and they do not get adequate nutrition, fresh air, exercise, and wholesome atmosphere in which they can be healthy. As mentioned earlier, girls and women with a disability are often confined within the house because of stigma, shame, and practical considerations like the mobility issues. These issues give them ability to socialize with their peers, make friends, attend family events, religious ceremonies. Extra this further isolate them and makes their lifestyle and drab. Leisure activities like going out for a meal or for a film become potentially embarrassing and humiliating encounters. A woman with disability may have to be physically carried because there is no lift or ramp or made to sit at a distance from her companions because there is not adequate space for her wheelchair. Although right-based approach has entered disability rights movement, it may be even blatantly sexist. However, the Beijing Declaration and Identify Platform of Action specifies women with disability really figured as a distinct platform for the action. Specific women are a particular vulnerable group with little access to information on their fundamental rights. This is a serious lacuna which needs to be rectified at various levels. One of the most important features of the UN Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disability, which was passed by the General Assembly in 2006, is the incorporation of a separate article on women with disabilities. Being a signatory to this convention, the Indian state is henceforth duty bound to incorporate the gender perspective in all of its policies and programs in the disability sector. This newly Disability Act does not make reference to women, particularly with regard to access to sexual and reproductive health care. However, there remains much to be done on the ground. Census of India.